Zlatan kicked out of the MLS for being a bad teammate. Another New York team getting in trouble for inappropriate language. Apple ready to break out the checkbook for Lionel Messi. Phil Neville out as Inter Miami head coach. Is Eden Hazard coming to Vancouver? Let's get into the crossover. Okay, let's get into it. Welcome to the first MLS Monday, where I will be covering everything going on in the MLS, scores that happened, big stories that are breaking, whatever it is in the MLS, I'm going to get into it. We're going to get into those headlines that I just read in a little bit, but let's go over what has happened this week in the MLS. The New England Revolution scored in the 93rd minute to steal a point from Atlanta, and their ties continued when they drew 0-0 to NYCFC. NYCFC involved in a drama-filled 3-1 loss to Cincinnati midweek. Cincinnati becoming the first team ever in MLS history to reach 39 points in 16 games with their 1-0 win against the Chicago Fire with the 83-minute goal for Acosta, who is on fire this year. Montreal scored in the 80 and 82nd minute to tie versus DC United. That momentum was stopped once Montreal came up against Philly and got destroyed 3-0. DC go on to beat the struggling Inter Miami 2-1. Miami, who got a red card in the 7th minute in that game, as their struggles continue after 1-0 loss to the New York Red Bulls midweek, which led to Phil Neville being fired from Inter Miami, and those Miami struggles must have rubbed off on the New York Red Bulls as they had their very worst game ever at Red Bull Arena in a 3-0 loss. But they now have 3 weeks off, so hopefully the boys in red will get it figured out. The Battle of the Snowy Cities. Minnesota scored in the 89th for a 1-1 tie against Toronto, who now has one win in their last 8 games. Different fortune for different Canadian team. Vancouver late penalty against Sporting KC gave them a 1-1 tie there. Vancouver coming off of a 6-2 win versus Houston midweek, where they scored in the very first and the very last minute of the game. Houston's week would go on to get worse with a 3-0 loss against St. Louis. The Galaxy, 2 goals in 2 minutes to beat Real Salt Lake 3-2. And even crazier, Charlotte versus Columbus. There was 3 goals in 4 minutes, with Charlotte scoring in the 56th, 58th, and Columbus coming back and scoring in the 59th for Columbus, winning 4-2 in that game. From goals back-to-back to San Jose not being able to get not even one shot on goal versus Colorado, who got a red card in the 51st minute to left back Bombito. But you know who will get a shot on goal every game is Henry Mukhtar, as he continued his wonderful season with a beautiful goal that we will watch later in this episode to hand FC Dallas their 2nd straight loss and keep Nashville hot. So crazy week there in the MLS. A whole bunch of games popping off. We got some games with a lot of goals. We got some games with no goals. Hot teams keep on getting hot. Struggling teams just keep on struggling. But let's look at some honors, okay? Let's look at some awards that the MLS has just given out. And we'll start off with the May Player of the Month. The May Player of the Month did go to Henry Mukhtar, who in 5 games played had 6 goals and 2 assists. Last year's MVP just continues to absolutely shred the MLS. Right back to it again with a goal against FC Dallas, which was the game winner, and it was an absolutely beautiful goal. We're going to look at that goal here in a little bit. Player of the match week was Julian Carranza, who scored 2 goals versus Montreal, which gave him his 2nd brace in the last 3 games. He scored 2 versus Montreal, 2 versus NYCFC, 1 versus New England, and a game sandwich in between there. He was not able to score against Charlotte, even though Philly did win that game 1-0. So he has 5 goals in the last 4 games. So shout out Julian Carranza. Absolutely on a tear recently. And honorable mention for player of the match week for me is going to be Facundo Torres. Now, I don't know if it's just because I was watching the game live in the stadium, but he absolutely destroyed my New York Red Bulls, okay? Absolutely destroyed them. Him and Ivan Angulo, I think it is, Ivan Angulo, they just destroyed my Red Bulls. I wasn't happy about it. but we don't need to talk about it. The Red Bulls struggled. It is what it is. Looking at team of the match week, up top we got Carranza, who scored 2 versus Montreal. Christian Ramirez, who scored 2 against Charlotte. He was part of that 56th and 58th. Scored 2 goals, 56th minute, 58th minute. Absolutely insane minutes there in Charlotte. Ruben, who scored 2 versus Austin. Ivan Angulo, a goal and an assist against my New York Red Bulls. Facundo Torres, 2 goals versus my New York Red Bulls. Hurts a little bit to say this, but they had a great game there. Edouard Lauren, who scored a goal versus Houston, just keeps dominating the league for St. Louis. St. Louis, extremely exciting team this year. One of the best midfielders right now in the MLS. Hani Mukhtar, perennial team of the week player here. Goal against Dallas. We got Noho and Richie Larea in the back, and we got Donovan Pines, who scored his 3rd goal of the season as a center back versus Miami. And then in goal we have Georgi Petrovic, who had his 6th clean sheet in a 0-0 tie to NYCFC. So now that we've got all of that out of the way, let's look at power rankings actually real quick. Power rankings, we got Cincinnati, who moved up to 1st this week. We've got LAFC, who moved down to 2nd. Now, LAFC is extremely interesting for me right now because I agree, they're a great team, absolutely great team, but they have only played 12 games. But still, only playing 12 games, they're still top of the table. But let's see what happens here. Most teams, I believe, have played either 16 or 17 games. So LAFC absolutely packed schedule this year. Absolutely packed schedule. I don't know how they're doing it. Again, they're using a lot of team management. Obviously, the Open Cup they were taken out by Galaxy, but they were playing most of their academy players. So let's see if LAFC can, once they catch up. I think they have 5 games to catch up to where most people are right now in the league. Let's see if they can stay up. Let's see. We hope for the best for them. Nashville stays at 3. Philly stays at 4. St. Louis moving up to 5. Like I said, one of the more exciting teams right now. Columbus up to 6th. The Revolution down to 7th. Seattle down to 8th. Atlanta to 9th. And Orlando breaks into the top 10 of the power rankings after that game versus the New York Red Bulls. Now let's get into some of these headlines, okay? Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Okay, one of the most respected players of our generation. In a generation where it was Messi versus Ronaldo, everybody was divided there. Everybody loved Zlatan Ibrahimovic. His charisma, the way that he played the game, his haircut, his look, everything about Zlatan, you just got to give your utmost respect. Again, during a generation where it was between 1 or 2 players, he was beloved by all, I feel like, except maybe people that he was playing against. So Zlatan did have a short stint at the LA Galaxy. He played the 17-18 season and the 18-19 season with the Galaxy, where he scored 53 goals and 15 assists in 58 games. Absolutely wonderful there. He took out an ad in the LA paper, just a massive ad, just saying, "Dear LA, you're welcome," or something like that. I don't exactly remember, but I'm pretty sure it was that. He received a jersey from LeBron James, signed that jersey, sent it back to LeBron. So he brought that charisma that he had. He brought it to the MLS. I feel like it was a perfect fit. LA, Hollywood, the marketing of it, it was perfect. Big name in the MLS. I was all for it. He credited the league for making him feel alive again after his injury coming in. But then it kind of turned towards the end, okay? He praised the league, praised how everything was run, said that there was great marketing in the league, said that the league was going in a great direction. But at the end, he left saying that he was just too good for this league. He was a Ferrari amongst Fiats. He was too good for the league. But now, after his retirement, so he left LA Galaxy, he went over to Milan, which I absolutely love. I feel like his retirement deserved to be in Milan. He deserved this last hurrah with Milan. I feel like it was beautiful scenes at the weekend, watching him cry, and even when he's saying goodbye to football, still looking at the opposing fans who were booing him and saying, "Hey, be quiet. This is your highlight of your year, okay?" Seeing Zlatan right here is the highlight of your year. So he kept that personality. He kept it up. Absolutely love it. But it does not come without some controversy. So recently, former Liverpool defender who did play for the LA Galaxy after Zlatan had already left. So Zlatan left and he arrived. Emiliano Insuna, in a conversation with Argentinian show Ataque Futbolero, said that Zlatan was not a good teammate and that he was not respected in that locker room. He said that players called him weird, players called him strange, and that is the reason that he left the MLS. Not because he decided that he was too good for the league, but because his teammates didn't respect him and didn't like him as a teammate. Now, again, the veracity of this, I don't know. How true this is, I don't know. I feel like once anybody retires, I feel like there's always these stories about, oh, he wasn't this and he wasn't that. So I just thought it was interesting to bring it up here. I don't know how you guys feel, but I personally, I can see it a little bit. I can see Zlatan thinking that he's too good for the MLS, coming to the MLS saying that he doesn't want to train, things like that. But once you get out onto the field and you score 53 goals and 15 assists in 58 games, it's kind of undeniable. His legendary goal in the MLS where he kind of like did the little sidekick scorpion almost to score a goal. I feel like he brought great moments to the MLS. How true it is that he wasn't a good teammate, I could kind of see it. I could kind of not. But I just thought it would be interesting to talk about it. So Zlatan apparently, again, according to Emiliano Insua, left the MLS not on his own accord, but because his teammates didn't like him and the team did not want him back. But either way, whatever happened, I'm glad that he did go back to AC Milan and he was able to get his last farewell in AC Milan. So shout out to Zlatan Ibrahimovic, absolute legend of the game, always respected. And that's that. Now moving on to a story that is a little less lighthearted. We've got NYCFC drama at the midweek. Okay, so NYCFC facing off against Cincinnati on a Wednesday, and it was just drama all over the place. Okay, NYCFC hadn't won a game in 8 games, so there's a lot of frustration pent up with NYCFC, not only with the team but with the fans. They got their second home loss in a row, which did not go well with the NYCFC fans here. There was some controversial refereeing. A Cincinnati player was retroactively fined for embellishment. We have James Sando, the captain of NYCFC, in a video that I saw on Twitter. He goes up to one of the fans, and the fans were like, "What's going on? This isn't good enough," and blah, 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 blah. And very candid moment between James Sando and that fan. He looked up at the fan and he said, "Hey, do you not think that those guys on the field want to win? Do you not think that these guys on the field are hurting more than you are right now?" And the fans going on about, "Oh, you need to be better than this. I come to every game. You guys have no heart," and this and that. And I like the act by Sands. He is the captain of the team. He went up to the fan and he said, "Hey, listen up. You saying that we don't care is disrespectful, okay? Because these guys go in and they practice every day and they try their best and they do their hardest and they put their body out on the line and they try to fight for the result. And when the fans aren't happy, yeah, the fans have the right to not be happy about it, but you also can't be disrespectful towards the players." I feel like this goes for all fans of all teams. I feel like we're in a culture where, I don't know if it's because of the sports betting and this guy didn't hit your parlay. You go on Twitter, you go on Instagram, "Oh, this guy sucks," and this and that and this and that. These guys are doing their job, all right? Like, these guys are putting their body out on the lines. They're trying their best. Again, you can be unhappy. You have the right, but to attack the players, to attack their morality, their character, it's just not right. Like, imagine you were at your job and you messed up on some report that you're doing, or you messed up doing something wrong. Imagine if you just had 100 people just looking at you, or 1,000 people just looking at you being like, "You suck, like, this isn't good enough." Let's just have some more respect for the players. But now what I will say, okay, and this is kind of going to the heavier part of the conversation. If you, as the captain of this team, want to hold the fans accountable for their rhetoric and the way that they're speaking, you also have to look interior and look at the way that your own players are acting. Because there is a story, again, out there. We already saw the Dante Van Zier situation with the New York Red Bulls. It was completely unacceptable. There's no room in the sport for racism. There's no room anywhere for racism. Dante Vanzeir was given a 7-game suspension. The coach, Gerhard Struber, was kind of ridiculed for the way that he dealt with the situation because apparently he knew what had happened on the field but didn't bring him off. Gerhard Struber since has left the New York Red Bulls. So there was an incident between Tavon Gray, and again, nothing has come out yet from the MLS. They say that they're still doing their own investigation. But for Saturday's game, Tavon Gray was not able to play for NYCFC because the MLS is investigating inappropriate language. Now, I don't know what that means again. Tavon Gray, a 20-year-old homegrown right back from the Bronx, plays in the Bronx with NYCFC, and it was announced Saturday morning at 9:30. So what is that, about 10 hours before the game, that he wouldn't be able to play. Now, MLS is conducting their own investigation. I don't want to assume that it was some sort of racial remarks that were made. I don't want to assume anything at all. But again, James Sands, I agree with you going up to the fans and sticking up for your players. But if you want to do that and stick up for your players, you also got to look internally as the captain of that team. And they had that situation with Dante Vanzeir happen not too long ago, okay, with their biggest rivals in the New York Red Bulls. So close proximity, everybody heard the news, everybody heard the situation, everybody saw the precedent that the MLS set of 7 games of the zero tolerance policy. So again, I don't know what was said. We don't know what was said. We're going to wait for this investigation from the MLS, but I get the heated rivalry. I get the frustration of not winning in 8 games. I get all of that, but there's still no room to be disrespectful. Competitive banter is one thing. Once you start crossing the line, which I'm assuming the line was crossed in some way here, the MLS is going to have to step in, as they should. We've got a 7-game precedent, so let's see what happens here with Tavon Gray. And sticking on NYCFC, Nick Cushing. Nick Cushing is on the hot seat here with not getting the results. I don't know how much he was aware of Tavon Gray's situation. Nick Cushing, obviously the head coach of NYCFC. The fans have been asking for him to leave. We don't know, but what we do know is one coach who has been sent out, Inter Miami, Phil Neville. Inter Miami currently sits at the very bottom of the Eastern Conference. They've got 15 points in 15 games, 5 wins and 10 losses, which is absolutely disgusting. Inter Miami, again, forever they've been linked to Messi, which we'll get into a little bit. But they've got a pretty decent team. I don't know what's going on, but Phil Neville has been fired shortly after their loss at home to the New York Red Bulls. And the interim coach, Javier Morales, is currently taking over Inter Miami. He's a longtime Real Salt Lake midfielder. He was a 2-time All-Star, won the MLS Cup with Real Salt Lake in 2009, and reached the conference finals in 2013. He's been with Inter Miami as the academy coach since 2019. So let's hope he figures it out. Let's hope. I don't know if Javier Morales is the long-term decision, but he's probably there till the end of the season. So Phil Neville out at Inter Miami, Javier Morales in. Hopefully Inter Miami can figure it all out and they can make the playoffs, because on this side, I'm standing partial. I hope everybody makes the playoffs. I hope everybody does well. But go Red Bulls always. Now, the biggest story, I feel like, in the transfer market in world football is, where is Lionel Messi going? Lionel Messi, obviously the second best player in the world currently. Everybody wants to know where he's going. He has announced that he will not be back at PSG next season. There are offers from Saudi Arabia. There are offers from basically anywhere, okay? If anybody can sign Messi, they will. Now, big move here from the MLS. And let's talk about it. Let's move back a little bit. So recently the MLS, or not recently, but at the beginning of the season, the MLS announced that they will be exclusively playing their games on Apple TV. When this news first broke, I was disgusted. I was absolutely disgusted. Why? because I feel like the sport of soccer was growing in the United States, or football, whatever you want to call it, was growing in the United States. And I feel like the move to Apple just isolated it, okay? You used to just be on your TV, just scrolling through the channels. You'd get on ESPN. You'd see, oh, look, there's an MLS game going. Usually it was like Atlanta United or something of the sort. Let me just sit down and watch it. Now, the casual soccer fan in the United States, they can't find these games just on TV. They can find a Man City game at 10 a.m. They can find a Chelsea game at 11 a.m. or at noon or whatever it is on NBC. So maybe they can tune into those games early in the morning because there's no other sports on and they just want to watch some sport. But the MLS trying to grow in the domestic market of the United States, it just makes no sense to go onto Apple. Like I used to last year, I go to most New York Red Bulls games, and when I wasn't at the games, I was watching it on MSG Go. I was watching it on my phone, wherever it was. I just knew that every game's on MSG. Cool. Any other game was on ESPN Plus. Now, I have ESPN Plus not just for the MLS, but I have it there for NHL and I have it there for this, and I just like some of the programs that they run on it. But I knew that every single game was on ESPN Plus. It's way cheaper. You get way more for it. You just go on ESPN, you throw it on. Anybody scrolling through their phone on ESPN, a soccer casual, you're just scrolling through ESPN, you're looking at stuff, oh, you're watching, let's say you're watching some other game, whatever it is, you see, oh, look, there's an MLS game right there, let me just click it, let me tune in. It was just a lot easier to tune into MLS games last season. You would see them on TV, you would see them on the ESPN app, you would see them on MSG Go, like, that's where I watch the Devils, that's where I watch the Knicks, that's where I watch, you can watch the Rangers on there, you can watch the Nets on there, so all of the local sports teams, they're on there. Just scroll through, you looking, you're watching a Rangers game, the Rangers game just finished or something like that, a Rangers playoff game just finished, you see, oh look, NYCFC is right there, let me just go on and just watch NYCFC. I feel like the discoverability of the league itself in the United States was a lot easier, and I kind of felt like they sold out to Apple. So now if you want to watch these MLS games, you have to go on to Apple Plus. You got to pay, I think it's $16 a month, something like that, in order to be able to watch every game. Now, the one good thing that comes with Apple is that there's no blackouts. So, like I was saying on ESPN Plus, like let's say you're watching ESPN Plus and you want to watch the New York Red Bulls, you actually have to go onto MSG Go and you have to purchase that, or you have to get it through your cable provider, or it's just whatever. Blackouts, you can't watch your home team games on ESPN Plus. You can only watch out of market games. So that's that. So that's kind of the way that it was set up, but I feel like it was growing. The World Cup was here. You would go on ESPN, you would watch an MLS game, something like that, and then they sold out to Apple. Now, if you want to watch a game, you got to go on Apple. Boom. Okay. I didn't like the decision at the time, but now I'm starting to see the vision here. Slowly starting to see the vision. Lionel Messi is offered a contract from Saudi Arabia worth $1 billion, and they're going to get this and they're going to get that. But take it back a second, because Inter Miami, in partnership with Apple is ready to give Lionel Messi part of the streaming revenue that they make from these games. And if you look at it, Lionel Messi is coming out with a documentary on Apple TV Plus about his World Cup run. Okay, so now it's kind of starting to align a little bit. You start to see that this might be kind of a David Beckham-ish contract for Lionel Messi that's being put into place right now. So for those who don't know, David Beckham, when he joined the league, he was getting a part of every single thing that LA Galaxy sold. A hot dog at one of the convenience stores in the stadium, Beckham's getting a part of it. He's getting to buy any MLS expansion team for $25 million. He bought Inter Miami, and now Inter Miami's worth I don't know how many hundreds of millions. So it's starting to make sense. I feel like this Apple getting in for Messi was kind of already set up before the season and before all of this was put into place. I feel like Apple came to the MLS and say, "Hey, you want the best players? We're willing to give up a little bit of the streaming of the streaming numbers for it. And we'll give you a whole bunch of money to invest into the league. So you help me out, I help you out. Apple and the MLS build this partnership. Now, Messi and Apple already have something going on for you want to make a World Cup documentary. We'll put it on Apple. We'll make some money off of here. Now, Messi comes to Inter Miami, and we'll give you part of the streaming rights and part of the money, and Adidas is also going to give you some of the money, so we can't pay you as much as a Saudi club, but we can give you a whole bunch of money in perpetuity that you're always going to have, and that's just going to be a constant stream of income even when you are retired. So Messi helps Apple TV because Messi being there, more people are going to subscribe to Apple TV just to watch Messi, and Messi is getting the money. So it's kind of just like a little bit of a circle between this partnership of Apple and MLS, and now Messi and Apple, and now Messi and MLS. So it's kind of looking like the MLS is going to be able to pull something off here. The MLS with Apple is going to be able to pull something off. They're going to be able to get the South American demographic, which there are a lot of South Americans, obviously in South America, but also in the United States. A lot of them are going to want to see Messi. Every team is going to be able to sell their tickets for more when they go against Inter Miami. Inter Miami is going to be able to make more money. So it kind of just makes sense. I feel like it's all coming together. I was against Apple and the MLS and MLS selling to Apple. I was kind of against it because I personally had to pay some more money. But now that it's coming together, now that I'm seeing the vision, I'm here for it. Apple is helping the MLS build their league. They're helping recruit these big players. So I'm happy for it. I can see it happening, and I think Messi will be part of Inter Miami, and he can take some of my money that I paid to watch the Red Bulls. It's fine. Speaking of another big player to the MLS, Eden Hazard to the Vancouver Whitecaps. So as we know, Eden Hazard, he hasn't played football in a while. He went to Madrid for a crazy amount of money. Never really worked out. He was kind of just on the bench the whole time. And now he's let go of Real Madrid and he's considering retirement. But the Vancouver Whitecaps have gone ahead and they have placed a bid for Eden Hazard. Now again, the Vancouver Whitecaps, one of the teams that were in the running for Cristiano Ronaldo. So good to see Vancouver making some moves. Vancouver obviously came into the limelight when they had Davies that they later sold to Bayern, which is now one of the biggest players in the world, Alphonso Davies. Shout out Davies. But Vancouver Whitecaps ready to make another aggressive move to Eden Hazard. And the final headline here that we have is Club Leon won the first ever CONCACAF Champions League. They beat LAFC in the final, two-legged final. They won 2-1 in Mexico, won 1-0 in LA. So congrats to Club Leon for the CONCACAF Champions League. There was a whole bunch of stars at that game in LA. Peso Pluma was there having a great time. So shout out to them. Now let's look forward into next week. Midweek on Wednesday, we're going to have one of the most interesting soccer games you have ever seen in your life. Not because of the team playing, but because of the format. So Dallas and St. Louis got rained out about a month ago, and they had to suspend play in the 50th minute. So on Wednesday, FC Dallas and the St. Louis FC Dallas and St. Louis will play 40 minutes of soccer nearly 1 month after their game was suspended. It's going to start with a goal kick. They're going to play out the 40 minutes, and that's going to be that. So they're going to get a full stadium. They're going to do all warm-ups, everything. They're going to open the stadiums. They're going to make money off of selling. I'm interested to see how many people are actually going to show up. I'm assuming that if you already had tickets to the original match, those tickets will be honored. That's what I'm assuming. But yeah, 40 minutes of football will be played on Wednesday between Dallas and St. Louis. Dallas looking to break their losing streak. St. Louis looking to stay hot. Interesting point here that I don't know how the MLS is going to deal with. Paxton Pamical and Sebastian Lletget were both on the field at that game, and now they've been injured and they can't play. So I'm assuming that I don't know if they're going to have to use substitutes for them or if they're just going to get like a free sub for those two players. But anybody who was on the field during the original game has to stay on the field now, and everybody that was on the bench has to stay on the bench. So again, those two players getting replaced. I don't know if they're just going to go in with 2 less players on the bench. I don't know if it's going to count as one of the 5 subs that they can make. It'll be interesting to see. Also on Wednesday at 10:10 Eastern Standard Time, Atlanta will play LAFC. LAFC has now 3 consecutive losses in the last 3 games, 2 in the Champions League that we just covered, 1 in the Cup versus the Galaxy, and Atlanta is coming off of 3 draws, 2 to Chicago and New England. Chicago and New England both scored late to steal those points from Atlanta, and Atlanta scored late to steal a point in Orlando. So one of those 2 teams hoping to break those streaks there. And then on Saturday we've got top team Nashville going against a struggling Toronto team. We've got Cushing on the hot seat against Real Salt Lake. I really feel like if NYCFC cannot pull out a result against Salt Lake, I really do think this will be the last Nick Cushing game at the helm for NYCFC. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm thinking. Cincinnati looking to stay hot against Vancouver. Miami looking to bounce back against New England and get first win under their new head coach, interim coach, whatever you want to call it. Atlanta versus DC. Loser falls out of playoff contention. Dynamo need to bounce back, but they are playing against LAFC, so it's going to be a tough game to bounce back. But the Dynamo, maybe just don't concede 6 goals or 3 goals. Maybe concede 1 or 2. Maybe. And bottom LA Galaxy looking for some Hollywood magic to upset top St. Louis. Those are kind of the big games that stuck out to me this weekend that we got. Hopefully it'll be a great weekend of some soccer. I hope everybody's team wins. Those are the headlines we have for right now. Very jam-packed week. Again, MLS Monday. I'm going to be doing this every Monday, so make sure to come back to the channel, check it out. Every Monday, kind of just going over headlines, going over teams. Hopefully we'll have some guests stopping in. Maybe we'll have some fans from different teams stop in, kind of give me how they're feeling about their teams at the current moment. But if you made it this far, I appreciate you guys for watching. Let's cover everything MLS. Let's go over scores. Let's go over headlines. Let's do this. Let's have a great second half of the MLS season. Hopefully, Messi will be in the league. It'll give us something to talk about. I hope your team wins. I hope everything goes swell. Let's not get any more controversies in here. And that's the crossover for MLS Monday. I'll see you guys next Monday.